Hey guys. So when it comes to Colourpop, they have so many products that it can sometimes be a bit overwhelming what to choose. By the way, in yesterday's video, in my makeup news video, I left out a crucial bit of information, not on purpose of course, but later on in the day I went on the Colourpop website and it said 30% off entire site. I didn't give you that information yesterday because I didn't know. And, you know, once you make a video, you can't really go back and edit it once it's on YouTube. So anyway, I'm letting you know today, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video, was to make sure that I let you know about this. Okay, so the entire site is 30% off right now. I don't know how long for, but they have so many products on there. So as I was going through all the products, I realized something when I was going through the website that I didn't realize before. Did you know that their single eyeshadows contain some shadows that are in palettes or have been in palettes in the past? See, when Colourpop first started, when they first started making single powder pressed eyeshadows, they were not in any of the palettes. As time went by, at some point they started taking random shadows from certain palettes and making them available as a single. The reason why this matters is, okay, let's use this as an example. The palette that I'm wearing today is the Just My Luck palette by Colourpop, okay? So let's say that you really like the shade that is on my lids. That is called Big Banks, okay? And maybe you don't want this whole palette. Maybe you look at this palette and you think, well, I would like to have that lid shade, but I don't necessarily want the whole palette because I would probably use that pair it with something that I already have in my collection. You can get Big Banks as a single. I didn't know this. As I was looking at all the palettes and all the single eyeshadows and everything, I started seeing the names and making the connection that I had seen some of those shades in the palettes, and I was like, oh my god, this changes everything. Because now that I know that, I might just want the single of something and not buy an entire palette. Another reason why this is important is, let's say you have a Colourpop eyeshadow and you want some inspiration as to how to use that particular eyeshadow. Find out if that single eyeshadow has ever been in a palette. And if it has, look at the palette and look at the other shades in the palette, and that's going to give you tons of ideas on how to use that shadow. So yeah, it can work, you know, two different ways. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that. And also I've been really into single eyeshadows lately, and if you saw my collection video that I posted over the weekend, then you know that I don't really have a ton of single eyeshadows compared to what I have for palettes. I have some single eyeshadows by A2O Lab, InStudio, MAC, and Colourpop. So this is my Colourpop single shadows. And I was looking at this the other day, and as I was looking at the color story, I said to myself, the Going Coconuts palette would pair nicely with a lot of the singles that I have. And I thought, oh, I should, do a look where I'm using some of the colors from the Going Coconuts palette and some of the shadows in my single palette. And I thought, well, wait a minute, how much easier would that be if the Going Coconuts individual shadows were actually in my Colourpop palette of singles. So it is now. That bottom row and this one right here is the Going Coconuts palette. I decided to depot it. Now, I've never depotted a Colourpop palette before. The Going Coconuts palette is one of their 9-pan plastic palettes that looks like this. And I wanted to tell you how I did it in case you have a palette that you wanted to depot. And I'm not going to show you because it would be very difficult to film that. And there's already a million videos on YouTube that will show you how to do it. So I'm just going to explain it. And once I explain it, you won't really need for me to show you, because if you just do what I say, then I don't think you'll have any problems. Okay, so this is what the palette looks like when it's empty. So there's this plastic overlay, and then underneath that there are magnetic strips made out of sort of like a rubbery material. Those strips are glued down, and the eyeshadows are glued to those strips. Now, I've noticed that with these 9-pan palettes, sometimes I'll have an eyeshadow that's kind of loose in the slot where they didn't use enough glue in that spot, or something along those lines. So what you want to do is, when the eyeshadows are in the palette, you want to look and see which eyeshadow out of those 9 has got the biggest gap on the side. And there's bound to be one that has a little bit of a gap compared to the others. Then what you want to do is you want to take the thinnest thing you can find and insert it into that gap and then pry out that one eyeshadow. Now, I have an X-Acto knife kit. I got it at Walmart, and it's got the base handle on it, and then it's got all different knives that will screw onto the top so that you can interchange them. And it was really inexpensive, and I bought it to cut the little plastic things on the dolls that I was buying at that time, because they come packaged with some really horrible packaging that's very difficult to get these little bitty plastic things cut so that you can release the doll from the packaging. So anyway, I used one of those knives. Now, if you use something like that or you buy something like that, please, please be careful, because we're talking about basically a razor blade on a stick. If you slip with that, you could cut your finger off. I mean, it's very dangerous. So if you feel like you're a klutzy person, or if you're a young person, especially if you're a child, ask somebody for help. Don't do it yourself. Or don't even attempt it. Okay, so there's my little disclaimer right there, so that nobody can say, but Mrs. the Doll told me. No, Mrs. the Doll is telling you either don't do it if you don't think you can do it safely, or get someone else to help you, or don't do it at all. Okay, so look for the one that has the gap, the biggest gap, and then take something like an X-Acto knife. If you already have something, great, but you're going to need something super thin that you can insert between the eyeshadow and the edge of one of these pans. And just try and carefully, very carefully, pop that one eyeshadow out. And once you have that out, then you can take something that's not sharp. I have this decorative letter opener. I have multiple things that I can use. And so let's pretend that this one right here, that I've gotten the eyeshadow out of that. Once that's out of there, then you can pry this entire plastic piece up, and it's okay. Even if you can just get the corner up, then you can pull the rest of it up and that piece will come off. It's being held on by these little holes right here. Now this looks really messy because I dismantled the whole thing in order to get the eyeshadows, because some of the eyeshadows were glued pretty well to these magnetic strips. And I found, for me personally, the easiest way to do this was I peeled up the corner of one of these magnetic strips and just ripped the whole strip right off the palette. And then very carefully peeled the pans off the strip. That's the way I did it. You know, if you can find a better way, great. But you know, you can reassemble this if you change your mind. If you know, hang on to the palette if you're not sure and you think, oh my God, I made a mistake. I wish that I hadn't done that. Fine. You just line up that plate, you know, put the eyeshadows back on the magnetic strip, line up the plate, and pop that insert. So once you have that lined up, you can just pop it back in and put the eyeshadows back if you want to. Or you can use this for putting some other eyeshadows that you have that are singles. You can stick those on there and customize a palette. But yeah, I wanted to let you know about that because I feel like that Going Coconuts palette just really goes good with a lot of my singles that I already had. So this way I'll have everything in one palette and it'll just be easier that way. These three shades right here are like the only cool toned shadows in the palette. So the rest of it is either warm or neutral, and I just feel like maybe I'll use the Going Coconuts shadows more if I have it set up this way. So that is it for today, you guys. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Thanks for watching.